Hey guys, Ryan Ament from Chasing Financial Freedom podcast. I hope you guys are having a great day. Today on the podcast, we have Jeff Dolan. Jeff is the CEO of Wavve, a cloud based platform that helps podcasters and other audio creators keep marketing on social media simple. He's a podcaster, musician, award winning filmmaker who loves to encourage creators of all stripes. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ryan. Glad to be here.
Thanks for coming on. I know it was a little bit of a wait, but we had a nice little pre conversation. I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Me too. Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Awesome. So before we get into more what you're doing, a little bit more about what you're doing with Wave, what about yourself? Who are you and what makes Jeff?
Wow, that's a big question, isn't it? I live on the coast in Wilmington and North Carolina. I love to surf and have a growing family and always have been interested in, I don't know, the word for it is always changing, but always improving yourself, self-help, hustle culture. I don't know what that is. I think all of us type A's just pretty much are like, no matter what situation we're thrown into, we're like, we're just going to try to be better.
Yeah.
And one thing I really noticed in myself early on was that I was a creative person and a creator. And I was always into art and music and graphic design and video. And so I have always tried to pursue that in some way, shape, or form. And then it became pretty apparent at some age where it was like, all right, you got to actually make money if you want to live and thrive. So then I was like, okay, so I can't just go into a corner and be creative. I got to actually figure out how to make money. And so that's where I got into business, sales, marketing, the whole business side of it. And I never really lost my love for the arts and encouraging artists. And I really think they are leaders. And so I feel like if you're going to be a creator slash leader of whatever you're doing, whether you're a solopreneur or leading a company, you have to bring that creativity into what you're doing all the time. And especially in this market, there's so many inputs we were talking about earlier, so many different things that are happening in the world and in our culture and online and social media and podcasting. Everything's changing. You have to have that kind of lateral thinking, that kind of creative mind to compile all of it and be nimble and move with the market. That's always been something I've loved and pursued to just encourage creators. And that's why I love doing conversations like this.
So how does a CEO of a tech company live on the East Coast and not actually live in Silicon Valley?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think these days it really doesn't matter where you live unless you're trying to get like funding. And with Wave, it's private equity backed, and the guys are all from North Carolina, and they love the calm approach to growing a company where it's not like the hyper pressure, like we
Mhm.
invested 100 million, you better 10x or you're dead. And so, really good guys over at Calm Capital, and they're really having a different view of how to grow companies. And I think it's catching on. A lot of the shift away from Silicon Valley, and especially with COVID, it's become pretty much we can live anywhere to do whatever we need to online. And and then you have a lot of the VC firms. For a while there, they were just throwing money at people
Mhm.
before even doing any due diligence. Try to compete. If you try to compete with that, all the smaller VCs or private equity are just like, it's just a numbers game. And yeah, the group that I'm with, they are very good about finding good leaders, putting them in charge of good companies and having a long-term view.
So a little bit about Wave. Did you found? Did you yeah, I
Found it.
forgot. You found it, man, and it's 12 in the afternoon here on the West Coast, and it sounds like I need, some more coffee. Were you the actual founder of Wave?
I was not, no. It was started by
Okay.
three founders back in 2016,
Okay.
and they pivoted a few times and then hit on what Wave is today, right as, kind of podcasting bow wave crested during COVID when everybody was at home saying, "Bet I could start a podcast while I'm sitting around at home." And we really benefited from that, and that's actually the original founders started another B2B company, which was helping with churn. And so they wanted to switch over to that, and they sold Wave to the private equity called Capital guys. And then they saw what I was doing in marketing and said, "Hey, can you help us scale Wave and lead Wave?" And so they put me in a couple years, almost 3 years ago now.
So the journey that you've been on with Wave, how would you rate it?
It's incredible for me. I'm a first time CEO. So I came out of corporate America in medical software sales. So SaaS sales, but in the
Mhm.
medical field, selling to doctors and health systems. And that whole field was getting real interesting because Epic and Cerner were starting to take over, and a lot of the smaller players are getting eaten up, a lot of consolidation happening, and a lot of saturation in that market. And so as a salesperson, I was very much getting kind of antsy or angsty about not doing the marketing.
Mhm.
Because in traditional corporate, it's like sales and marketing. They
Talk
are
to each other.
yeah.
Exactly.
So it's like, "We sent you leads, you didn't close them. It's your problem." And the sales guys are like, "You sent us horrible leads. Of course we didn't close them. Send us better leads." And what I saw happening was you really needed to be one person and really know kind of how you're prospecting and marketing and a lot of the digital marketing yourself. And it's interesting, as I saw that trend, I started a social media agency on the side. And one of his clients, one of my first clients, or actually my first client, was like, "Hey, I really like what you're doing for me. Can you help me more full time working to scale the company?" And so that's when I got out of corporate America back in 2018 ish. And it's interesting how the industry has progressed. It's really become not just sales and marketing kind of melding into one person or one kind of entity, but I've seen the rise of the influencer where it's like the personality is leading a company, right? And so that's been really interesting to see. And I've actually had to deal with that. So I've gone through this whole cycle where it's okay, corporate America, be a CEO, like traditional mindset. And then it's actually look at all these guys building and they're leading their companies. They're on social media. They're doing podcasts. They got a YouTube channel. They're like level Z celebrity or whatever you call it. And so it was really interesting to see that shift happen where if you're not out online leading your company and being visible, nobody really knows who you are, right? It's just, I don't know
Yeah.
anything about this company. If I can trust them, and especially with AI now on the scene, you don't know what you don't know what is real, right? You're looking at some dude with like 16 abs and you're like, I'm pretty sure that's not anatomically correct. I don't know.
But that's hard. You're talking about AI, and we can go down that rabbit hole shortly, but that's the really hit on a nerve that I know I've struggled with over the years, is if you're not out in front of everybody social media wise, how do they know who you are? And people my podcasts are my passion projects. I'm in the real estate space, more affordable housing, and the only way I can get eyeballs on what we do is by posting 3 to 5 times a day across my social channels.
Mm, yep.
And y after a period of time, I can't manage it. I have 2 VAs that do that for me. But
That's awesome.
be yeah, but before I did that, I was always wondering why I couldn't get people more interested in what we were doing. Because 'cause I'm in Arizona, a lot of our work is in the Midwest, so I'm not near it.
Right.
So, being able to effectively communicate and share our story, podcasting, video, social media, blogging, all those things,
Hmm.
I hardly ever did.
Yeah. And it is funny how we think somehow people are going to find out about us now when everybody's news is in their phone. And we somehow
Yep.
think they'll just search us. I think the new stats are like all the Gen Z folks are now not even searching Google anymore. They're searching their
Really?
socials. Yeah, they're searching like
Wow.
TikTok and Instagram search.
So, wait a
Um,
minute, they're getting their data and their information from TikTok?
yeah. Isn't that crazy? So the Gen
Wow.
X and older, they're still going
Uh-huh.
to Google to find, but the
Okay.
younger generation, they're already on all the social video platforms and they're just searching right there. And so they're on
So
YouTube or wherever.
so what you're telling me is one of the largest generation doesn't even go to Google. So how if you don't put yourself out there on these video platforms, how can you be found?
Correct.
Cra That just blows my mind.
It's insane.
Yeah, not that they just go there, but that is there any more to that story? Like, why do they go there before they go to Google? Is it a
They're
trust thing?
they're already there. So think about the psychology, right? Like I've explained this before. I'll try to make it more concise. So our generation, the older generation, we're into long form content as the first step.
Yes.
It's we're gonna create the podcast, the long 20 YouTube video. We're gonna write the book. We're gonna have the documentary. We're gonna go all out because we're deep thinkers, experience, and we know what's going on. The younger generations like, bump that. Just give me the like 30-second trailer so I can see if I even want to spend more time on it. This is the generation that basically is watching Netflix on 0.5x speed. It's what? I couldn't have even
Whoa,
imagine
whoa,
that,
whoa.
right?
Wait, back up. You serious? They watch it at 1.5 times speed?
Go to Netflix. I could not believe when I saw this. Go to Netflix or Hulu and
Okay.
click on the settings, and you'll see the ability to speed it up now, just like YouTube. It's insane.
No.
It's who is watching anything on that speed?
So what you're
Like,
telling me is their attention span is shorter than anything we know.
yes. And so what's interesting is they will create that form first, which is smart, right? They'll test out the short form trailer first. And if that hits, they'll spend more time on it and make longer form. But they don't even waste time if it doesn't go viral or it doesn't get likes or engagement. Whereas our generation is we're not sure, we just Google it and then we chop it up and put it on socials. They're going the
Yeah.
opposite. Even as far as I've talked to some young folks doing socials where they're like, if something popped off, they
Mhm.
say you should go back and re-edit it and make a new title and the first few seconds different and repost it. They're like, nah, that's too much work. I'm just going to reshoot it. So they literally won't even go through the work of repurposing stuff. They'll just reshoot it, make it fresh, right? And it's that iteration. And so they're already creators on the platform, live streamers on the platform, gamers on the platforms. That's where they live. And so that's where they search, right? So they're not used to saying, oh, let me go to this other web page and search and then get a bunch of text and then find it and then click and then get another bunch of text and then read through this long blog to try to get what I need. They're just like, I need somebody to explain it to me in 30 seconds or less. Just explain it to me. And then if I'm interested, you have a link where I can go. Why do you think YouTube just came out with this new where you watch a YouTube short and if you like it, you click to watch the whole long YouTube video right from the short?
I saw that on my podcast channel because we do shorts on that, and I see that now I think TikTok started that because I've been doing that on TikTok for several months now. So I'll put out a short, like, from our podcast, I'll get a 30-second short, and then I can link it to the longer version.
Right. Yeah, that's huge. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really huge. Yeah. And it's interesting too, even with folks that are going live now. I got caught the other day on TikTok where I couldn't even go live because I didn't have 1,000 followers. But you can't even go live yet on TikTok. You can't go live on someone else's channel. So if they're live and they got millions of followers or whatever, and they're like they want to call you up to
Yep.
be live on it with them, you can't even go live unless you have over 1,000.
But can you go live on your own channel without 1,000 followers?
No,
No?
no, no.
Wow.
So I
That's
gotta bump my game up on TikTok, basically.
then let's share because I'm in the same boat. Because I just recently I put together a TikTok page just for the podcast. I got
Nice.
150 followers, whatever.
Good.
But, eh, you know what? You're in the space and maybe we talk about it is the consistency and and being persistent with putting video out. But sometimes it's even with that, it doesn't help with algorithms. And I'm not trying to win the
Right.
algorithm. I'm just trying to figure out what sticks. And
Right.
sometimes some of the stuff we talk about on my podcast with guests doesn't stick at all, doesn't resonate because it's things that people don't want to listen to,
Right.
as in change. It's a four-letter word for people.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people are looking as entertainment. Some people
Yep,
are looking as news, right? They just give me the headlines, give me the quick takes on what your opinions are. They're looking at trusted people. Very few people, if you look at kind of the stats, how they break down, very few people are looking at it as like a improvement platform. Like, let me go find the gurus that are going to teach me how to do something. In other words, learning. That
that's
is a
why I
portion of
struggle.
it. Yeah,
I mean,
that is a portion of it. But a lot of us that are on creating content, we are sharing our knowledge, our experience, we're teaching, and you have to make it fun and entertaining to make it palatable for some of the younger audience, right? Because they're just tuned it out. They're like, I just want to be entertained, right? So you got to make it more entertaining, the shock value, right? The surprise factor. There's all these different things that you can do. But then as a creator, you have to step back and say, why am I doing this? Because literally, I'm not trying to dance. I'm not trying to like
no,
have a talent show situation.
no,
So you have to be okay with the level of engagement that you get on whatever you're trying to put out because you're just trying to find your audience and your customers, right? Because I think the other thing is there are YouTube channels that make so much money and they don't have many followers, right? They might have 300 followers and then the dollars. Those 300 people are very important for what they're trying to do.
yeah,
If you get 300 VCs on a YouTube channel for very specific content and they have dollars at their disposal and they invest in your company, that's all you
cha-ching.
need. You don't need
Yeah,
millions of followers. And so you got to look at like who is your audience, who are your customers, and what do you really want to put out? Because the other concept that I've struggled with is once you start doing something and start getting known for something, you're almost painting yourself into a corner, right?
yep.
Because now you have an audience that's like leaning in. Like, I want to hear from you about this. And then maybe your life changes and you're like, I don't do that anymore. or or I was on a diet and now I'm in shape and now I don't care about talking about food. So I'm gonna move over here or whatever. And all the people are like, oh man, and then you gotta start over again. And I was at a conference where they asked this of YouTube executives. And they were really fans of if it's around one topic, around one audience, put it all on one channel, shorts, longs, whatever.
Mhm.
But if you like pivot majorly, like just create a new channel. And I thought that was really interesting because the other way that I was thinking about it is if you're a personality, you're taking your audience on a journey. And if you're entertaining enough, if you're an actual personality, then your personality should outshine whatever you're talking about to where they're like, I trust Ryan, right?
Yep.
I trust him. I want to hear from him about real estate. I want to hear from him about real estate in Arizona, in the Midwest. I want to hear about affordable homes. And then all those keywords are like, this is what I trust Ryan to talk about. And then all of a sudden you're like, hey, I'm getting into commercial real estate or flips or whatever, right? Now it's okay, you're taking them on a journey and they're like, I love Ryan so much. I'm just going to keep listening because he's going to make it fun. And I like the way he teaches. I like the way he puts out content. Right. And so that's ideally you want to get to that kind of next level where you're not just one of the people teaching, you're like a personality people trust. And then they're like, okay, cool. I'm going to tune in. And then when new platforms come out, they're like, oh, let me find Ryan on there. Make sure I, add him with real estate because that's what I'm doing. And I think that's like the hardest challenge. It's the hardest challenge to break out as an actual personality and let your personality shine on socials. That's like the hardest pivot to make.
I would say that's a struggle that I've been through many times, and I'll tell you for very specific, YouTube, in the sense of Ryan Dement as a real estate guy, podcaster, and I didn't mention before, we just recently got a nonprofit approved that is gonna help people with financial coaching and so forth
Oh,
to
wow.
become homeowners. But
Congrats.
thank you. But that didn't do well with my podcast about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. I broke off and created just a channel on YouTube that's just Ryan Dement, and it's just me talking.
Personal brand.
Personal brand,
Yeah.
I it's mixed right now because I still have real estate, I still talk about lending, I talk and then True Talk is really my hashtag, TRU talk, and just talking real to people. Some people tune it in, some people tune it out. I There's some haters out there, they're like, "Why are you talking about this?" People don't I talk about adversity. We all go through adversity and we have problems, and I'll share some stories and people are like, "Why do you talk about this? It's boring."
Yeah.
I get it. I'm not that entertaining personality, I'm just being real with you guys, but what I wanted to get back to is if you can't truly be yourself and be real in your marketing and so forth, you're in a stuck space where you're not gonna get anything. You just gotta put out what makes you happy and find
Right.
like you said, find that find that niche market or those clients that fit you and market to them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a mix of different types of content too. And you can't get so stuck with the format and how you do things, your workflow, where you're just putting the same exact every time. I think that's a hard thing to break too. You have to be sensitive to what the trends are, what's changed, what the styles are. YouTube, TikTok, all these platforms change all the time. So you got to constantly be like, hey, now they have this new feature and that lets us do this with the music or this with the clips or this with the, and so now you swipe up, now you swipe this way, now we swipe this way, right? All the different things that are changing. You have to read the market and your audience and keep it as entertaining as you can. Mm. I think the other thing is if you're teaching something, right? Like you're teaching real estate, there's a local aspect to it as well.
Of course.
And so you could also tap into the regionality of what you're doing. So if you are in a certain area, then the people local will start tuning in. That's really powerful if you want to bridge it over to like real life, where
Mhm.
like in the real world, I've seen even podcasters where they're like, "Hey, I'm going on tour," which is crazy to me. You're
Yeah.
going on tour as a podcaster, and you're literally just showing up with a microphone and interviewing your guests live. But you can do it if you're regional, right? You're like, "Hey, meet me at my next house. We're gonna do and we're gonna have 30 to 50 people show up because they're all tuning in, and I'm gonna interview one of you for my podcast." That would be a really exciting podcast to watch, right? You're
Mhm.
interviewing somebody while you're walking through one of your properties and explaining stuff and teaching stuff. That's much more dynamic. And so being creative like that and thinking, like, what are different ways that I could do it? I think it's really funny how once guys really achieve what they want to achieve in real estate or investing or business, they're always like, okay, now I don't have any meaning in my life. I'm bored. I'm rich. I'm just going to be a podcaster. And so then they buy the big studio and got the big interviews, with all these guests on, and they really could go and they do really well, a lot of them. And so I think the rest of us, they're setting a bar. They're setting a bar for the entertainment, the quality of guests, the quality of the show. That's a lot of the folks. If you're teaching a certain topic, you have to look to say, okay, anybody who's searching in my space is gonna find these people. Why am I standing out? Am I just trying to copy them and just be another version of them, or am I bringing something different to give them a reason to say, hey, I'm going to follow Ryan as well because fill in the blank.
Yeah, and that's back to finding your voice and working on that. I call it the shtick because you really need to be yourself. It's still taking me some time, but it's also when you're in front of the camera, knowing how to speak and being able to effectively communicate your message in a short period of time. I struggled with shorts for the longest time, and I'm like, you know what? Until I can manage it properly, I'll shoot us old people will shoot a longer version, and I'll use a tool like Opus to cut
Yeah.
it down and
Yeah.
find those shorts that work. Have I gotten better with shorts? Yes, but I still think I struggle with it and I'll continue to do it. I'm not going to give up on it. It's just a lot easier for me to sit down and shoot 5 minutes or stand up and shoot 5 minutes on the other side of my room here and let Opus do the rest of the work. For me,
Yeah.
that's time well spent.
One of the things that I realized was a shock to me was if you shoot some long form content, you can't clip it. Like it's
Yeah.
unclippable.
Yeah.
So if you do like listicle type blogs where you're like, these are the top 10, whatever, if you just clip that, you have no context of what you're talking about. It's just
Mhm.
like unclippable content, right? So there's certain content where, or you're telling a long story and it has different parts and it, it just has no context when you clip it. And what some influencers are doing that I'm noticing is working is they're really focusing on giving a short pitch for their longer form content. So instead of clipping it, they're just shooting they're having a guy summarize it,
Mhm.
right? Or taking a summary of it, or they're taking the most attractive part of it and they're saying, "Hey guys, I'm gonna be talking about this awesome thing. Click the link to tune in. Can't wait to see you there. We're gonna be live chatting. We're gonna be doing this. See you there." And it's just that short, but it's not even about the content. It's just a trailer to get somebody that's swiping to stop for 2 seconds and be like, "Oh, there's something happening that I wanna check out."
That's what I typically do for these. I'll shoot a short that just talks about I give them I call it an eye-popping opening of some sort that catches their eye and say, "Hey, Wednesday at 5 AM Eastern, new episode drops, blah," and just give them a little bit of information and then see what happens. Those do quite well. Those reels and shorts do very well for me where people are engaged and they're there. But
Yeah,
again, until you start doing it and physically putting yourself out there to move forward with it, you don't
right.
know. So,
Yeah, and it's hard to commit to that kinda stuff, right? It's just
yeah, that's the other thing is the time commitment to all
Yep.
this.
And then you show up, and I've done things this is everyone. You start off, you have no followers, you're just like, "Hey, guys,"
Yeah.
show up, and then one person, "Alright."
And it has to start somewhere because I know that feeling all too well. When I started this podcast, I was getting 3, 4 downloads, and I
Yeah.
know downloads is a vanity number, but when you're first starting, it's, "Man, will somebody listen to my podcast?" And
Well, and
it's
that's why,
tough.
Mr. Beast is so fun. I saw a clip from him. He's basically I basically tell you how to do everything that I do.
Yeah,
He's like, "Make 100 episodes of whatever you're doing. Don't even look at your follower accounts until you 100 and just fix one thing each time. So each time
yeah,
you do it, just fix one thing, and all of it is just practice. Like, you're not even in the game until you get past 100 of whatever you're doing." So I'm like, "Wow." And so I think a lot of it too is just like longevity. Do you have the endurance to go the distance to even get the data to see what's working or not working?
yeah, and that's in this space called pod fade. I know that because when I started this December will be 5 years of this podcast.
Congrats.
5
Wow.
years, yeah,
Wow.
every Wednesday, an episode, never missed.
Good job.
Yeah, and I took a picture when I started, and 25, 26 podcasts were there at that time. Only 4 right now are active. When I say active, at least putting 1 episode out a month or some type
Mm.
of rhythm of episode of those. There could have been more. I just snapshotted those and I watched those, and it's crazy how quickly people just drop off. For the longest time, 2, 3, 4, 5 downloads is what I was getting.
Yeah.
They only listened for 3 minutes, 4
Wow.
minutes.
Yeah.
It was pretty depressing, and then I found Podmatch. Alex and his team over there, man, have been huge.
Then yeah.
It's changed my podcasting world, and now it's I have to decide how I can take it to another level because I think I'm stuck here with my downloads, and I'm stuck here with listens. Now it's like, how do I better my game, bring better quality, help with listenership? I mean, there's a bunch of stuff to do, and I haven't even scratched the topic of monetization yet. I don't even think I'm there. I think I'm passing 260 or 270,000 downloads, something like that.
That's
Um,
amazing. And is that mostly real estate folks or,
no,
what kind of who's
it's
your audi
I get the audience is all across the United States. When I first started, I was really localized to the United States, and somehow I got into the Soviet Union. I got into South America.
Nice.
Japan. The Philippines, I've got 2 VAs there that have been working for me from almost the beginning of this. So I'm guessing they're sharing some of that. So I'm guessing that's how I got there.
Nice.
Um, and then Canada.
Mm.
And it's spread across the globe, but podcasting is just weird. It's just you have to find that space and stick with it. And we're coming to the end of the year and I'm like, man, can I preload a bunch of episodes and just get them over with and give myself some downtime? Cause it's a lot of work.
It
I mean, it's a
is.
lot of time and effort that goes into this. And as my plate continues to get fuller on my other businesses, I'm like, I don't want to stop podcasting because I enjoy talking to guests like yourself about everything. And I learn something new all the time. I just have to figure out how to make this work again because it's getting to the point where my plate is full.
Yeah, one of the things that I recommend to folks is the season. So, just like TV shows have seasons,
Yep.
that's the best way to do podcasts because you do have that built-in break where you can say, "Hey, this is the last season of this or last episode of this season. We'll see you back in January. We're doing this and this and the year." And then you can reset the expectation and you can be thematic, right? So you can say, we're trying something different this season. This season, we're going to be doing XYZ, right? And so it helps you innovate a little more and on your episodes and gives you that break point to replan and come back. And a lot of times it doesn't hurt your numbers. It's interesting. Like I've seen Patrick David do it. I've seen a lot of folks do it on Casey Neistat, where
Mhm.
they take a break and people are sad, but they come back stronger and people are like, "Oh yeah, this is I can't wait to." It's like they're looking forward to you coming back. And as long as you tell them you are and set that expectation, that's a way of giving yourself a built-in break. Because there's no rules to this. As much as everyone says like consistency, yes, that's true if you want to consistently grow, but it's your life. It's like your business. Like you're a person. You have to run your business and take care of your stuff. So yeah, I think I'm a fan of the season. I'm also a fan of artists are not robots, right? And if
Yeah,
we're creating stuff, it's hey, we're doing this because we want to connect with people and grow our businesses and things like that. So, yeah, every all of us have to do what makes the most sense for us. And if it becomes uh, a just a drudge, just like a heavy weight, then you're not going to show up. You're not going to bring your energy. You're not going to enjoy it. People are going to sense that, and then they're going to tune out, and that's not what you want.
not at all. The and I'm gonna switch topics here. We haven't spoken about it, and I think it needs to be brought out is Wave. I was an early adopter. I know I used it, and it was a great platform. Can you talk a little bit about Wave, and we'll land this episode and close it
Yeah,
out, but I'd love to be able to hear what's going on with Wave.
yeah. So we're a small company. We help podcasters, audiobook authors take their audio and turn it into video for social media influence. It's for people that don't want to be on camera like we are. They don't want to edit video. They don't want to mess with video. They don't want to do anything around hiring people to edit video, but they want to create video, right? Because that's what social media is about. And really, when you're talking about the content you're producing, especially podcasts, it's longer form and there's no visual to it. It's just you're listening, you're working out, you're running, you're doing errands, you're doing chores. You're not actively looking at a screen. So really what Wave is doing is we're saying, hey, put some visuals to your audio, clip it out, and just make something that's moving on the screen to capture the attention so they read what the topic is and then listen to it and then get them hooked. And if you can do it fast enough, easy enough, often enough, they will become fans of your podcast. And so you're trying to get somebody that doesn't know anything about your podcast to a listener, a regular listener. And if you have the right targeting, the right content, you're going to attract somebody. So if I'm like, hey, I'm an Arizona real estate investor and I need to know more about the market. And I see that it says Arizona real estate, affordable housing guru. And then I'm going to click on that and I'm going to listen to it. And in the scroll, when I'm scrolling, Wave is giving you that we could probably say it's AI driven, but it's basically we're matching the audio waveform to your voice. So it's custom. Every video is custom. Every clip is custom. We make every frame of that waveform match your audio. And that movement is just enough to stop the scroll for them to say, what is that? Oh, interesting. And then have them read it and listen to it. You can put captions on it, progress bars. It's just enough to where you can rapidly get it out very cost effectively, very easily, and find your audience. And so that's what we've been working on. Like we talked about prior to the show today, a lot of the podcasters are moving to full on video, right? They're recording on Zoom, they're recording on Riverside, we're on Restream, all these platforms that are creating the video easily. And then that's what they're starting with. Now, some people don't like their visual, right? They haven't dialed in the lighting, the background,
Yeah.
right? So they're just like, I recorded it on Zoom so I can see the interview and have a good interview, but I'm not using this visual. And so they have their nice professional photo. They create the Wave video and they put that out on social. I've also heard an interesting one where the podcasters are recording it on Zoom or similar platform. They're putting out their audio only podcast,
Mm.
but their clips are of the visual of the video.
Hmm.
So they're only clipping out the talking heads, but when you go to the podcast, it's just audio. So that's an interesting thing too. And all of these things are different levels of creator sophistication. And so where Wave's really coming at this point is what's the easiest on ramp that we can give you to on socials as a podcaster, right? So we're really catering to the person that just they're small shop, they don't want to mess around with the video. They want to get rapidly. They want to get out as many platforms as they can. They already have the logos. They already have the nice headshots. They already have maybe it's a corporate. We have a lot of corporate folks. We have audiobook authors where the investment in book cover is way more interesting than anything that they could have on video. They have some artist that has some amazing, cool sci-fi looking art on there, and that's the cover, and that's gonna stop the scroll. And they invested a lot in that book cover, and they wanna market that book cover. And so they just put that on there with some audio under it, and that's all they're trying to do. Same with music artists. Music artists use it a lot because they wanna make their album cover famous, right? They got a really cool photo that they spent a lot of time and trying to figure out the right curated album cover. That's what's on their audiogram, right? They just put that
Hmm.
cover on there with the music going. And that's all they need because they want people to imprint that as the new thing that's coming out. And so a lot of times you can use your thumbnail as the entire video. That's what Wave helps you do instead of having the thumbnail go away immediately when you start. You don't actually get to see the thumbnail a lot of times. The thumbnail is the thing that makes you go listen to it in the first place. If you're ever scrolling on YouTube or any of these platforms where you're looking at thumbnails or even podcast players where you're scrolling through all the cover is the thing that you say, "Oh, what is this?" Or the title, yeah, I like that. That looks like something I want to do. If you click on that and it's just video, then that thumbnail goes away, and now you're waiting for talking heads to do something, or you're not sure what the edit's gonna be. And what Wave is doing is we're just saying, just keep that thumbnail going and just have some movement and some captions on it. Because 9 times out of 10, if it's learning, they're gonna just tune out of the visual anyway. If I already know that, okay, we got these talking heads, that's what all I'm gonna see for an hour, I'm moving on. I'm not gonna be
Yeah.
watching the screen. And I've only heard it's funny, I've been, like, surveying people. I think it's 10% right now is the current stat on how many people when they're learning, they're, like, watching the people the entire time, right? Like, they're, like,
It
looking at the screen and, like, looking
yeah.
at everything the entire most everyone else is just, "Yeah, I got it," and they put the phone somewhere doing something else.
Depending on the platform, because each of my podcasts are hosted in 2 different places, like Anchor wants you to put video up.
Yeah, isn't that
So
interesting?
it pushes since I've started doing video on Anchor, it has pushed me out to more people, or at least an opportunity to more people through Spotify, since Spotify owns Anchor now.
Yep,
Uh, Buzzsprout, where this podcast is hosted, doesn't offer video. It only
yep,
offers audio, but now they're saying they're gonna come out with video, so I have no problem doing the video piece. I've just found off of Anchor, I'm getting better traction with video. I don't know stat-wise, it hasn't changed listen time. It's steady, but I'm getting additional eyeballs or exposure because they have some type, and you probably know more than I do, but there's something with the Spotify and Anchor algorithms together. For some reason in the search feature, I'm getting since I've gone video, I think I've gone from maybe 1,000 or 1,500 searches to where I'm over up to 7,000 searches.
Yeah, they're pushing it too,
Okay.
right? They're pushing it. So if you are doing video, you're getting priority, and so they're proactively promoting you. So that's really good. So if you're listening and you hear any sort of platform where they're trying a new feature,
Mhm.
if you jump on that feature, they push that more, and so you'll get
Okay.
an outsized, return on that when you jump on and stuff early. So I definitely encourage if you are on a platform to try out the new things like that. Of course, I did try out this one that I think they just closed. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It was like a create your own radio show, and they had this huge promotion on it, but it was like old school radio where you could, like, have the songs that you like, and you're the host, and you're running your radio station, and you're DJing or what, and I just saw the other day that they shut it down.
Wow. The other and we'll wrap it up, but this is one of the last, and, we'll wrap this up, but internet radio, know anything about it? I've been approached several times saying, "Hey, you should have an internet channel," and I'm, like, thinking, "24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I don't have enough episodes."
Yeah. What's interesting is the radio terrestrial radio has been struggling for a long time, and they, um, are realizing podcasting is a really good source of talk radio, right? And so there's a lot of new movement lately. There's some headlines where the radio stations are saying, "Hey, we can put programming from podcasts on air." So if you're a podcaster and you have episodes or you're willing to start putting live shows on, you can really easily move over and become a radio personality, not just a podcaster. And I think we're going to start seeing that as a trend in the market. We're going to start seeing podcasters cross over to radio for sure.
Interesting. That's pretty cool. So before we wrap this up, best place people can reach out, and then I'm sure people listening are gonna wanna test out Wave, and I don't know what you guys are offering. If you're offering anything, whatever, where would one go to try out Wave?
Yeah, you can go to wavve.co, wave.co, and sign up for the newsletter to put out 2 of those a week on all the latest trends and articles and headlines in the podcasting audio space and social media space. So that's a really good newsletter. It's called the Audio Insider, the Wave Audio Insider. And then I write personally and YouTube on my own personal brand, jeffdolan.com. So those are the 2 places you can find me.
Awesome. I will put a link to each of those in the show notes. Sir, thank you very much for coming on. Great conversation. Love what you're doing, but also you shared a ton of tidbits and gold nuggets in this on this episode. So thank you very much.
Cool. Thanks, Ryan. It was fun.
You're welcome.